Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Paws for My Tail podcast. I'm your host, Shepherd the Leopard, or Shep the Snep for short. Again, we have a fantastic guest with us, JarggyRoo.
Hello.
Hey, Jarggy. And this is our third episode with Jarggy. The first two episodes we talked about, growing up, getting into high school, and then things that you went through and discovering your identity as someone who's non-binary, identify as gray ace, and you can go back and listen to those episodes if those terms aren't familiar with you. For you, Jarggy did a really good job of explaining what those are, so go back and listen.
Indeed.
So with that, Jarggy, let's talk about what happened after high school. Where did you go when that was done?
Okay, so after high school, I was in the point where I was even debating if I want to go through with it at first or if I wanted to, take a couple years to myself. But I really wasn't given that option to begin with because I I basically was forced to look into my options in terms of universities right off the bat because it's one of those things where it's expected to already know. I mean, at least within my family dynamic, that it's expected to kind of already know what's gonna happen next after you're done with one thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I basically ended up searching for local campuses because I don't really plan on living on the university site, considering the funding and the whole process of moving and all that, which we couldn't really afford to do at the time because it was also the point where my oldest sister was already deep into her college career that my parents have already spent most of their funds going towards her tuition and on-site campus housing and even all the commutes that we go through every now and then.
Oh, wow.
So I basically settled on a community college that's thankfully just 30 minutes down the street, and I didn't have to worry about going on a bus or even taking trips other than the car that I already had, which by the way, I had my own means to go there, which is the car that once belonged to my sister, but I was borrowing at the time when she wasn't living at home with us.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I spent about 4 or 5 years at this community college. I was basically just going with whatever I can find. I was later realizing that in order for me to, go into the subject that I was pursuing for, which is of course art, I have to take up all of the general educational classes that are prerequisites of the said major or career path that I set out to have,
Mm-hmm.
which was frustrating because I was like, I'm so ready. I'm done with the whole dynamic of what grade school had to offer. But then I came to university, be like, no, I still have to know the fundamentals of arithmetics and language arts and many other things that I don't even remember, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Did you know going out of high school that art was the topic that you wanted to go to college for? Like, was that like a given straight off the go that that was what you wanted to do? Or is that something that took a little bit of time going through classes and figuring out what you wanted to finally major in?
Oh, I definitely knew that I wanted to do art as a living coming into college because it's something that I have always been doing. Whenever I'm not doing a bunch of other on school activities, that I definitely found art as the biggest source of me expressing myself and something that I can definitely hone in my craft on and to help with my endeavors of showing what the world that what I can do with myself and what I can create.
Mm-hmm.
And it's definitely something I wanted to try out and upon entering university.
Oh, cool. So it sounds
Yeah.
like, though, community college probably, I don't know how every system is, but lots of times they offer like a 2-year associates with a transfer to a larger university. Sometimes you can get the full bachelor's at the community college, which is really a great way to go, just because lots of times your education is better because the teachers are more focused on a smaller classroom size and the expenses are a lot less here in the States for community college. Were you able to do your full schooling at community college, or was most of that just getting like the more academically minded classes that maybe you weren't quite as geared towards getting those completed there?
Oh, I was only there for the sake of getting the necessities out of the way, and I was planning on actually transferring out of that sooner or later. I was expected to do so within like the 2 or 3 year time limit, but I found myself like being there for a little bit longer than I anticipated, which I kind of was disappointed in because I really wanted to. I was the type that wanted to get things done and over with, and I really didn't. I really could care less about all of the other extracurriculars that the community college had to offer. Like I just went in there anticipating that I would just get all of the unwanted things out of the way before I can actually go up to the higher leagues of university,
Mm-hmm.
which I eventually did. But again, it didn't take until like like 4 or 5 years for me to do so. But like looking back now, I'm kind of thankful that it did take me those many years to finally get to the point where I wanted to be. Because one, I had to realize that my mind works a different way in terms of retaining information of what is learned, and I definitely couldn't take more than like 2 classes at max to help me stay persistent with my academics, because whenever I do like more than like say 3 or 4, I find myself not being proficient in one of the classes. I end up like either dropping out of it or retaking it or just completely forgetting about it, or I would sometimes go on probation because of those failing grades that I had to make up for. And that definitely was one of the big factors that did hold me back longer than I anticipated. So, because of that, I some good came out of it. I found time to actually learn more on my own time of what I wanted to do in terms of my art, like what I wanted to do besides, just creating my own characters or creating like things that I see on TV. Like I eventually learned that there are other fun things in art that I could be doing, like trying to do more, let's say, life drawing, like techniques, like basically just drawing based off of what I could recall in my memory or from what I'm seeing right in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, I did was able to find classes that did cater to that kind of practice. But um, I was lucky enough to find time for myself to dive into that technique before a professor could even tell me that it was important to do so before I could move on to my artistic endeavors.
I've dipped my toe in academic art,
Hmm.
and figure drawing, real life drawing are huge foundational elements to a lot of what you'll need in the rest of your college career. And so for
Hmm.
you to already have an interest in doing that before you actually took those classes probably gave you, a huge advantage, at least in those art classes, going forward, I bet.
Yeah, it wasn't all fine and dandy, let's just say, because I was taught to actually take up a style that isn't within the cartoony, semi Disney-esque sort of style that I was already used to.
Mhm.
That it was such a shock for me to try to get used to actually doing realism and figure drawing that I had to put away what I'm comfortable with just to get the technique right.
Mhm.
And let me just say, there was a memory that I could recall of seeing some naked body parts for the first time. Like, there might be, I don't know if anyone has done through this, but when it comes to figure drawing, you have to have like an actual nude model right in front of them.
Mhm.
And it's, I tried keeping it in with my reaction, but I'm just like, is this okay? We have like an actual naked person in the class for this. Like, is this okay? It's weird, I know,
Mhm.
but that's what happened.
I was close at one time to being paid to do that, and I didn't do it because I was like, "Nah, I don't think I want to do this." But the offer had been made once because lots of
Oh,
times those are paid positions at universities to be a nude modeler.
yeah, I bet. Maybe not a lot, but it's still you still get compensated for it somehow.
So, but yeah, you're not the only one that I've talked to that have taken those figure drawing classes that were a little taken back by that initial like experience of, oh, I've actually in class drawing nude pictures and it's expected and I need to
Hmm.
be as precise and real as possible.
Totally.
But so I'm always told by art instructors or professors that even though your focus might be more cartoony, more illustrative art, that the real life or the figure drawing is still essential and helps carry over to skills that make your toony or illustrative art better. Did you see that? Was that something that you experienced where even though that wasn't your wheelhouse per se, that it still made your art in general better, or is that just hogwash? Like that's just something they'd say to make you go through the class.
At first, it was complete hogwash. I was like, I'm wasting my time. Why am I doing this? Oh, obviously for to proceed forward academic wise, but it's something that I didn't really see myself getting into at a much more personal level than I already did. But later, I was told by one of the professors that in order to in order to break anatomy, you have to understand it first, or I should say, you need to understand it first in order to know how to break the anatomy in terms of exaggerating certain styles within that set anatomy. Because this is especially true in terms of caricature. Like, sure, there are exaggerated proportions that obviously don't reflect on what it is perfectly in real life, but you can still grasp the skill that the artist had in understanding how, excuse me, the human face works, and it's surprisingly like a fact that you could still determine who that person is, even though it's all distorted to the point where all you see is just exaggerated elements of that person, which is kind of cool to think about when doing caricature work.
Hmm.
But yeah, my main point being like understanding anatomy is essential, which something that I eventually learned later down the line.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Was this all during community college, or is this when you finished community college and went to university where you had these figure drawing classes for the first time?
It was a little bit within like the tail end of community college, but it was more within the university that I ended up going. That is when I was able to find more of and to actually sit myself down and listen to what I was taught, because knowing that I was already out my way from doing general ed, I can actually feel like I can be more committed to doing figure art.
Mm-hmm. Well, you were doing those general ed classes that were not your forte at all. And you said it took like 5 years in community college, academic probation at times, probably rocky where you just weren't certain if it was going to work out, I'm sure. What kept you going? Like, it sounds like college was really, those classes weren't made for you as someone that was seeking art, but still is required. How did you muster the strength to push through all of that? Like, that takes something to do. Like that's impressive.
Yeah. I started to feel bad about myself when it went past like the 5-year gap, but I wasn't really aware of it at the time. But it's all of the people that I met, it's all of the outside experiences that wasn't necessarily keeping my focus on within the academic habits of going to class every single week or so, and just keeping in mind that it's all about the journey and more so than the destination itself, because um, I was able to meet people, whether they stuck around or whether they just came and went. I was still thankful for that, even though they did just came and go,
Mm-hmm.
because it puts you in perspective knowing that like they're on the same journey as you are. Maybe not exactly to the point where you're proud of where you are now, but you just gotta realize that we're just chugging through life. We're just trying to live like however means possible, and to make sure that as long as you just keep the end goal in mind, without worrying about how exactly are you going to get there. It becomes beautiful knowing that all the other experiences that you gain throughout it all, it's somehow more memorable than like just the idea of just trying to get by to the end goal. And yeah, it's the same thing that can be said within many other things, I'm sure.
Do you find yourself taking that approach with your art as well, where it's more like the experience of going through and have like the actual art process is more like the experience getting to the journey rather than like, because I know lots of times artists, and I only mentioned this because we had Canyon on, and Canyon was very much about the art experience, but
Yeah.
it's easy to get frustrated at our mistakes. And I remember you even talking about earlier where you were very afraid to show mistakes or to make mistakes, but art is largely a process of making mistakes and refining. And then throughout your academic career, it sounds like there was a lot of mistakes that you made getting to your destination. Do you feel like art or just that outlook in general of the journey to the destination rather than the little individual points where you could fail? I guess I'm just curious where that developed, how you were able to form such an outlook, because it's incredible and it's super healthy to have that. And you've done amazing things because of it. So I guess I'm just interested in how that outlook and that process for you came to be, and if you see it in more than just your college journey. That was a very rambly question, but hopefully you understood it.
I think I do. Basically, you're asking like, did I? Well, obviously, I did make a lot of mistakes, and of course, at a large point of my life, was afraid of making those mistakes. But I guess you were trying to like understand if any of that came through within my art process.
Mhm.
Is that correct?
Yeah, or just how that developed for you from somebody that was so adverse to mistakes to embracing those mistakes as just part of the journey to get to where you want to go.
So I get super frustrated whenever I do make mistakes within my art because it's essentially, well, to me it felt like it was essentially wasting my time just to like go through with the process when I should be at like this point in the process and not just stagnant to where I am when I was making these mistakes. But of course, I learned that it's all part of the process. It's something that helps you build character and making you realize that it's important because the best lessons do come from like making mistakes, whether it's within art or just life in general. And if I'm not mistaken, isn't I'm probably sure like Canyon has made this kind of point within one of his videos before about like accepting the fact that you are going to make mistakes within the art process, and there are healthy ways to cope with those mistakes and not just see it as like a hindrance upon your performance.
Yeah. Well,
Mhm.
it's so awesome to me that as an artist, you know, you're applying that same discipline to what appears to be your process through other things in life, like going through school, where, it was just, you weren't so focused on maybe some slip ups with classes or some different academic failings, but you were more interested in the destination, and that you use those kind of mistakes to just learn from and brush it off and try again and keep going. And like that's super amazing. And
Exactly.
from somebody like me that, and I understand that feeling of, when you make a mistake, it can be very difficult and lots of times hard to get over, and lots of times you want to just, the first sign of trouble, it's like, okay, I'm throwing in the towel, this isn't going to work. But that's not what you did. You kept going and you had a goal and you went, and ultimately, I know we're spoilers, but Jarggy graduates with, a degree in art. Uh,
Ooh, yeah.
but that's amazing to me, So, and I think for a
Mhm.
lot of other people too, to see, hey, it was very difficult and there was a lot of failure, but because you had that end in mind and you just embraced the journey, you
Mhm.
you made it to the end and you're that much better for it. So I find that incredible.
Yeah, and trust me, like even up to today, I still cannot revel in the idea of how I even got through with it in the first place. Because all I can say is just I just went along with it, knowing that there are impacts that did affect me in the long run, but in the general sense, like I just learned to, just press on and like take in consideration of the factors that played within it, whether it's negatively or positively. But yeah, just just stay true to what you're aiming for, and then things will eventually fall into place some way, somehow.
hmm So you get all your generals done. You transfer to a university, I assume. Why don't you tell us from that point after community college, how did things go with schooling and with art?
Okay, so in university, I was kind of hit with a crossroad of maybe kind of reconsidering how I approach my art endeavors. Because um, I was living with my folks long enough for them to bring up the question of what I really want to do in the long run. And they know well for sure that it does involve art, but the specific art that I wanted to do, they don't really completely see that as something that can be done on the long run, like especially financial wise, or the fact that it is a pretty competitive field, especially today. Like, I don't know if anyone can predict like the state of like these animation companies are at this point, which I'll probably talk about later down the line. But um, they kind of persuaded me to trying out maybe like, I don't know, graphic design. It's something that it's kind of less competitive than the animation field, but still you can still receive plenty of compensation off of it. And
Mhm.
um, I came to realize I kind of suck at it. Because I took a class, yeah, for basic logo design and just understanding all of the necessities of what it takes to create like icons and logos for certain companies. And I wasn't doing my best because I didn't really see the appeal in it. Like, no hate to those who are doing it now. Like, I'm just saying, it's just it was kind of boring. It's I didn't really feel the joy that I initially felt when I wanted to create like illustrations of like characters or environmental designs and things in that nature.
Mhm.
But I know sometimes, and I do mean sometimes, there could be moments where you can channel that kind of energy on specific logos that people do create. To like, I guess, for example, I don't know if it's the same, but you know that logo with PetSmart where it's the silhouette of the kitty and then the dog is just like merged into one. Like
Mhm.
that's something that I could probably find joy in when it comes to that. But I know the world isn't perfect. I know the world isn't surrounded by like the furry community. I know it's tragic, but it's yeah, ultimately, I just figured that it really wasn't just for me,
Yeah.
and it took a lot of like self reflection on how I was performing in that class. That it's just something I had to come to conclusion with eventually with my folks that graphic design wasn't really in my wheelhouse, and
Mhm.
I'm sorry if it's basically me just turning down like an opportunity that could be even easier than like finding a position in art that I wanted to do on the long run.
So it sounds like in order to do art, there is a decent amount of sacrifice that you had to make in terms of just stability or perceived stability for your
Hmm.
future. Um, has that been something looking back that you are still kind of like, well, I hope this works, or has it been worthwhile for you to kind of, even though there is some degree of that financial instability, it's the actual um, fulfillment of doing something that you really enjoy has made it worth that insecurity for.
It's definitely the fulfillment that gave me that peace of mind throughout it all. However, of course, there are days and moments where the whole financial stability does creep up in my mind once in a while,
Hmm.
and I get it. Like it's definitely important. You got to put food on the table and whatnot, and it is important to make that distinction of not letting it consume you. You know, because it's it is my own personal belief that money doesn't necessarily buy you happiness, but it does make it heck of a lot better to get closer to it. And it is important to make that distinction that um yeah, of course work for it, but don't let it uh define you, if that makes sense. Like don't let
Yeah.
it be the central aspect of living.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. And
Yeah.
I totally understand when it comes to graphic design as somebody that did the logo that people can see that is awful.
Hmm.
I understand how that would be something you probably wouldn't want to do.
No, but I'll also consider like I'm just thinking about this now. I feel like more we need a lot more graphic designers, especially in this day and age, because I don't know if you notice that a lot of media logos have become a lot more bland and colorless.
Mhm.
Like for example, like the Patreon logo or the Twitter logo, which is I know it's called X, but let's let's not go there. But but yeah, it's I don't know if it's just a personal bias, but I miss the days where you see a bunch of advertisements or like company logos that does look a lot more lively and colorful and a lot less corporate than it actually is. And just these days, it just feels like they've fully delved into the corporate aspect and just made something just for the sake of having something visual. I don't know. I'm probably rambling at this point about it, but
No, I think that's a valid opinion though of it, and something that shows your artistic nature and eye, that these are things that like Jarggy takes offense to the IBM logo because it's just IBM.
yes. And another thing I want to add in: are you familiar with this art style called Allegria? I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly, but
No.
it's so I define it as a corporate art style. I can define it as, let's see, those business web pages where it has those characters with like blocky body parts and their heads are always very small compared to the body,
Hmm.
and it would show like other visual elements that does link to the said company. That's the best I can describe it, but
So just overly simplified design, I guess.
I wouldn't say simplified, but exaggerated to the point where it's too soulless. That's the
Hmm.
best I can say. But you
Like
can you
all
can you
corporate.
can look it up later. It's called Allegria.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
cool. So university, how long from the point of community college until graduation? And then is there any other like stories about art classes or your journey going through university that stand out as significant?
So all of the classes that revolve around illustration, I can definitely look back and have a bunch of fondness to it because a lot of those classes also do have people that have similar aspirations, such as myself, of wanting to be part of like the animation industry or even the gaming industry, and just having like like a interest in making character designs and making like environmental and like pictures in their heads. Um, but I cannot recall a point where I didn't hate it, but I did feel like I probably should have not stayed within those classes as long as I should have, because I felt like a lot of my university days, all I ever did was classes that revolve around art that I probably was too beyond that in terms of my skill level.
Hmm.
But I wanted to take it anyway because it's all part of me just wanting to interact with the people that is what I look forward to. Because I remember taking up a Photoshop class, even though I already knew so much about it. Like I didn't necessarily need to take it in order to move on, but I wanted to go through it because I wanted to talk to the people to that and gain more perspective on what their upbringing was and how they got there in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You talk about how, you probably were advanced for a lot of these classes, and you've
Mhm.
also touched on how competitive art is as a field. When you were going through college and taking these classes, um, did you often compare yourself to the other people that were there, knowing that like this in a microcosm would be possibly some of the competition that you would face in getting out into the actual field? And I know lots of times from my own experience, like you'll see people in art classes and you're blown away. Like it's just like
Mhm.
amazing. But then you see other people and they're not quite there. at that level. And without being harsh, you kind of want to grab them and be like, hey, you might want to reconsider this. Like, I know you love this, but given how competitive a field it is, like, you either need to push yourself immensely to get to that skill level, or you need to reconsider things. Did you ever feel yourself at that point where you're like, I should reconsider this, or I need to up my game? Or were you one of the people that were really just already proficient and saw other people that you're like, oh no?
So I didn't look like it, but I was super jealous. I just wanted to like find an excuse for them to quit just so I can get ahead. But it's, of course, that's not like the most I guess moral option to take when it comes to the journey. But but it's hard because you do eventually see people that look like they are ahead of you in terms of skill and in terms of where they are in life. And it is the sad fact that it is competitive and it is going to make you want to better yourself like every single day, because you want to get to that point where you want to be, but without antagonizing the people who are already ahead of you. And that can be hard because you don't want to like make enemies along the way, because like people talk, like people do, word does get around with how you are perceived from other people, and you don't want to like be petty about it. I know that's especially hard for me, like during my final days of university, knowing that I am almost out. I'm almost like on my way to the bigger leagues, and it's uh, it's also hard that I'm probably not like mentally prepared or even like skillfully prepared, even though I was at that tail end, and even though I did make a lot of friends along the way that I probably might see them like later down the line if I'm lucky. And I'm also thankful that I didn't really make enemies along the way. I mean, as far as I know, I probably pissed off so many people.
I doubt that.
Okay, well, who knows? Whatever they're doing in life, I'm sure they're happy. I'm sure they're living the dream. But as I was saying, I'm confident enough to say that I made more friends than enemies, if any. That I wanted to make sure that whatever they're going through, I hope they're doing it with pride and with diligence, and that hopefully whatever we went through at the time was worthwhile.
Yeah.
And despite how competitive the industry is, we don't put our egos above everything else just because you think that it's gonna make you get ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the post-college industry field that's super competitive, because it sounds like you've had some success in that. I know a lot of people, they go and university is challenging, it's hard, they get a degree, and then they're super excited to enter the workplace, and they learn the harsh truth that sometimes it doesn't work out, where you get that degree and there's just it can be hard. So did you encounter that? And if you did or didn't, like tell us your experience. What happened when you got out of college? What was it like?
So post college, I was basically like, what now? Like, I could, just send a bunch of resumes to whatever company I find and just call it a day. But at the same time, I just wanted to reconnect with other things besides what I've been pursuing to kind of ground myself within reality a bit. And I did take the time to do that, thankfully, because it was, well, I think I forgot to mention that during my university days, that's when the whole COVID lockdown happened.
Oh, wow.
And it's very daunting to like change things up with how they present, how they run classes within that era, because it was a scary time where people had to adapt quickly to the new norm, like
Mhm.
knowing that people's lives were on the line if we don't abide to these new standards. But it was during COVID that I sort of took a break from university, which kind of played a factor in on why it took me long to even get through in the first place.
Mhm.
But so like after COVID, well, I should say once things are being lifted with the whole regulations of the mask and everything, it was when we were all so eager to just like live life normally and just to explore things like outside of our comfort zone in terms of where we live.
Mhm.
Um, and that was around like, oh gosh, it was just last year that I finished university. Um, sorry, I had a realization like right there. So yeah, um, it was then that I was so ready to, go out and explore, whether it be through travel or just amongst other places that I could be going to. But afterwards, after graduation, I'm just like, you know what, I'm just gonna lay down and like lay back a little bit, probably
Kick your feet
not
up.
like, yeah, probably play Animal Crossing one more time if people still cared about that these days. I don't know. Um, I figured that I would be doing that for a long time because I would already get so burned out trying to send out applications and resumes to companies
Yeah.
because like job hunting, I'm sure many would agree, like job hunting is a job within itself, and doing so much of it does lead you to be eventually burned out by it.
Burned out and depressed because job hunting is awful.
Burnout and depressed. Yes, you're sad that you don't have one, but you're still sad that even if you have one. Oh yeah, but so here comes my like next story. So it wasn't until long after like 2 or 3 months after graduation that I somehow found an opportunity that I can do with my art. And I'm pretty sure you already know where this is going, but it's when Furality reached out to me after I send out my like application and my like portfolio just all willy nilly, nonchalantly. Like I had no expectation that I would even get through with this whatsoever
Mhm.
because considering the fact that I was straight out of college, I was just learning all the ethics of what it means to put yourself out there. And surprisingly enough, after like a month or two after sending out my portfolio, I was reached out to Dalton, and he was interested in like my story of how I became like the illustrator that I was now,
Oh,
and
wow.
the fact that it even took notice, like I still couldn't believe it up to this day, that I found an opportunity, even though like it wasn't exactly like a big corporation. Like Furality is like a nonprofit organization that's like completely funded by like the attendees of the convention
Mhm.
and whatnot. And even though I do receive like compensation from what I do there, like it's still not glamorous. It's not like a position that you want to be in terms of seeking like long term stability. Like we're not even we're not even unionized. Like unfortunately, but But even so, like, they're still a great bunch. Like, I found like great people that I met within like the Furality team that consider my second family up to this point.
Oh, cool.
I know, like Canyon is one of them. Like, I know he works as like a backend developer, even
Hmm.
though I remember him saying like he didn't really do much like from the last Furality, which was Furality Umbra. But even though like I still see him as like one of the integral parts of the community, which it's probably saying a lot, but that's just how I feel.
Well, I'm
But
sure he is embarrassed to hear it.
but going back to the whole interview part of Furality, it was like almost completely right after I graduated college, and that um, it came as a shock that it happened all of a sudden. Like, I was expecting to be like a couch potato for the next 2 or 3 years, but here I am now. Like, I'm part of the creative team. I do help with the conceptual part of the world building, which is like basically concept art and all that. And I even got the chance to make the poster for Furality Umbra.
Yeah, and it was beautiful. I still need a signed copy.
I'll get to it soon. As like, just let me know what convention you're going to, and I'll just fly over there.
Do you see now that it probably wasn't just your application, but it was the years of arting and creating that got you to the point and also filled out that resume or portfolio that was able to get you that position? Like, it wasn't just I'm done with school and I have this credential that got it, but it was probably years of work and artistic creation that gave you that portfolio that they were able to say, yes, this is who we want.
Yeah, I do feel like the fact that I was able to be patient about it played an important role. And of course, part of it is luck, but I do think that patience is definitely just as important as luck. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you cannot have like one without the other, you know?
Well, I think in your case, patience was not just waiting, but it was still actively pursuing, towards that goal. Even if you weren't
Mhm.
seeing results immediately, you were being actively patient.
Yeah, in one ways or another, I would
Mhm.
say.
So you get this job at Furality and you've made some amazing art for them. Is that kind of where it's ended? I mean, it sounds like you're still working for Furality, but is that kind of your only opportunity you've had post college, or have you had any other professional opportunities?
Okay, so here's the thing. Not long after I got accepted into Furality, I remember sending out a resume and a link to my portfolio to SpindleHorse, which, for those who don't know, is the company that made Hell of a Boss and Has Been Hotel. So it wasn't until weeks later that they reached out to me and be like, "Hey, we feel like you're capable of like producing the kind of art style that we are looking for. Can you like do the art test?" And I'm like, "Okay, sure." Like, again, like, I wasn't really having my expectations that high, like as similar with Virality, but I just went along with it, and alas, almost instantaneously, like, I was able to find a position as one of the designers of Hell of a Boss, not long after Virality, and that's a double whammy right there if I ever saw one.
How much work went into doing that? Like, I imagine like the amount of art that you had to produce on a daily basis probably was significant. How involved were you in that process?
It's At first I wasn't too involved, because especially starting off as like a newbie, I definitely had to do a lot more smaller projects
Hmm.
coming in to kind of gain the to kind of grasp the whole work ethic and the procedures that you need to understand. But I was still able to find time like out of doing one or the other. Like I was still able to do art commissions here and there, even though like even though I don't have enough freedom that I had once with the art commissions, like I still do them like on occasion.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to still contribute to the furry fandom with my own art, one way or another. It's something that helps me, like like keep me busy while I find even more or even bigger opportunities further down the line. Like I'm thankful that I was still able to live with my folks during the time being while I do the work that I was put into now at Furality or at
Mm-hmm.
SpindleHorse. And um, kind of going on a tangent here, but it is expected to like stay behind with your folks these days, considering the whole economic state of being.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad that I have that support system within my family to, not feel ashamed of the fact that I am in my early 30s, but still isn't like able to find that sort of independence that is expected to see in people my age. Like I'm thankful that I'm part of the culture where like, living at home isn't as stigmatized as it is in Western societies, like in the past decades.
Do you feel like there's been some growth there in the family area? Because I know that we talked a little bit about early childhood and then some of the problems that you encountered in high school. But do you feel like, given time, that circumstance has been improving for you? That your family has been more accepting about your art, and especially given like working for an actual like animation studio,
Mhm.
has that relationship or the expectations that they had for you, has that evolved and gotten better as time has gone forward?
It definitely felt like it gotten better. However, they still, push me to, look for other opportunities outside of what I'm doing now
Mm-hmm.
because I understand they're not like huge major companies that pay enough for me to, like have good health insurance or even pay off the rent on my own. Like,
Mm-hmm.
even though I'm with my folks at the moment, like I'm still able to like, like help out financially as much as I can. Like
Yeah.
I pay for my own auto insurance. I pay for my own dental. I pay for my own like credit card. I pay for like parts of the electric bill because like I use the computer a lot, so why not,
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard knowing that I might still have a long way to go before I can be able to live the life that I want of living independently because even up to today, like even with the known economic state of being, like I'm still pretty insecure about the fact that I'm not technically living on my own yet. Like despite being told that it's okay, like the world has evolved to the point where we don't shame people for like being a late bloomer and that we're finding our own pace in life. And it's it's a lot. Like for me, it's a lot. Even though to some people, it's no big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But I find peace in mind of the fact that there are people like you, assumingly, that are understanding of this situation.
I don't know. I'm pretty no.
Okay, I'm out.
I'm out. We're done. um so looking back,
Hmm.
you probably wouldn't have gotten into art to begin with had it not been for the spiral community, into the furry community. It sounds like furry is kind of what gave you that motivation to begin with, and also gave you the opportunities and the motivations to continue your craft and to make it better, to get the education in art, to work on the commissions. Looking back, has furry played a significant role in your life, and not just the people that you've met and that support, but also just the direction that your life has gone?
So, like I mentioned before, that I am confident in saying that furry has played a big role in my life in terms of development and my upbringing. Well, I wouldn't say I bring it up every chance given. Like, I'm not those kind of furries, like, obviously. But I would say it's thanks to the furry fandom that I was able to gain a sense of confidence, that I was able to no longer be the introverted version of me that I experienced during like middle school, high school. I still kind of am now, but I'm no longer like at that point where I just wouldn't say anything at all. Like if I wanted to say something, then I'm now was able to just express it thoroughly, and to no longer be afraid to approach people whenever I do want to talk to somebody. And yeah, it's thanks to the furry community for that I was able to learn how to put myself out there more. And not only that, but I guess just knowing my sense of self, whether it be like sexual orientation or like my gender identity, that I can confidently like express that through my day-to-day life, within like public places or within like my friend groups and family. That with that I can just be confident in knowing that it'll turn out a lot more better than it did before.
Well, awesome. So, as we wrap up this series, is there
Mhm.
anything that you really want to just portray to somebody that might be listening? Maybe there's a person that's watching that's on the fence about being in the fandom, or maybe they've had similar life experiences but their life has gone differently. They didn't have that support. What would you say to somebody, or just in general, to wrap up this podcast series, that stands out to you as something that you would like the audience to know?
Well, if you do learn about us, if you do learn about what it is to like be a furry, it's a very broad definition of what it is, but I'm confident in saying that if you do find the community welcoming you with open arms, like you will find like a space that will love and care for you. And if you find that being a furry isn't your thing, then that's okay. Like it's okay. We appreciate the fact that you took the time to come in open-mindedly and without any like animosity with anyone in the fandom. Um, of course, like there are going to be some bad apples within the community. Like that can be said to any community whatsoever, but um once you do find the right people that you surround yourself with, then it is worthwhile. It is going to be such a life changing moment for you, that you can find someone to revert back to when things go wrong, that you can find a way to express yourself within the community.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Jarggy. You are amazing. It's been a pleasure to get to know you more, to hear about your life story, and make sure that if you're interested in seeing more about Jarggy or Jarggy's socials, we'll include them in the description so you can politely stalk them on the internet. But
I won't bite. Not that hard.
I might. But yeah,
Okay.
thank you again, Jarggy. You're amazing. This has been a fantastic series. Just so many amazing points that we hit on. And thank you for your vulnerability too. Like, I know that we went into some topics that maybe you weren't initially prepared to talk about, but did an amazing job going over those, and just amazing. So thank you again.
Yeah, and thank you for having me. This has been such a pleasurable moment for me to, get to open myself more. And I thank you so much for giving me that chance to talk about it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, you do me. I feel like I'm the one that gets the bigger figure out of this, but thanks again. Everybody, if you've enjoyed what you've been watching, again, hit the like or subscribe button. Tell your friends about this podcast. We're still in the growing phase, and so your support makes all the difference in helping propel us to where we can continue to provide these amazing stories like from Jarggy here of members in our fandom. We've got an amazing fandom, and it's just there's so much growth and so much fulfillment and just fun times to be had here. So I'm glad that we have this opportunity to focus on individuals in it like you. So thanks again for watching. We will see you on the next episode. And until then, have a good one, everybody. Oh, wait, I need to do there we go. I like that way better.
There we go.
Bye.
Yeah. See ya.